Indonesia's recent history of terrorist attacks began with a deadly campaign that unfolded on Christmas Eve 2000. Bombs exploded almost simultaneously at 18 sites, mostly churches, across 6 provinces. 19 people died and 120 were injured. Jemaah Islamiyah took the blame. It was the first real mention of the group in Australia. But Indonesians had another theory. They suspected the military, the only organisation with the capacity to pull off an operation of this scale, a full 2 years before the first Bali bomb. The respected news magazine Tempo even splashed the allegation on its front cover as part of a special investigation. The most revealing information in the report related to the bombers' network operating in Medan, North Sumatra. The man convicted of making the bombs in Medan is somewhere behind these prison walls. Our repeated requests to interview Edi Sugiarto over many months have been ignored by the Indonesian authorities. Guilty or not, reputable sources claim he was so severely tortured before his trial he would have admitted to anything. But it's clear he wasn't acting alone. The Tempo investigation included telephone records revealing sensational information of direct links between the bombers and military intelligence. The records also show that Fauzi Hasbi, the military intelligence agent in Jemaah Islamiyah who we mentioned earlier, was at the centre of the plot. He had spoken to Edi Sugiarto, the bomb maker, 7 times, and had also called a businessman well connected with the military 35 times. That businessman in turn rang a Kopassus Special Forces intelligence officer 15 times, and the officer had called the businessman 56 times. With Edi Sugiarto in jail, all further investigation ceased, and 5 years on, sources in Medan are too afraid to talk. The trail has gone stone cold. George Adichandro is an early riser. As Indonesia's leading researcher into corruption in high places, there never seem to be enough hours in the day. For 2 years, he's been investigating a terror campaign in Poso, central Sulawesi. His research reveals that terror in Indonesia is much more complex than we're led to believe.
There is a mafia, you can say, a corruption mafia in Poso who were defending the interests of themselves, because if the corruption the corruption mafia could be exposed, that means the end of their career and also the end of their additional income.
Adichandro says this corrupt network of local government officials, police and others is using terror to protect a local racket in central Sulawesi.
Between corruption and terror, there is a very close link, because those who were carrying out the terror were paid with corruption money.
Central Sulawesi had just emerged from years of conflict before the latest outrage on May 28th this year. In the predominantly Christian town of Tentena, 60 kilometres to the south of Poso, 2 bombs left 23 people dead. A blast that claimed more victims than the second Bali attack, but received scant coverage outside Indonesia. The first foreign journalist to arrive on the scene, without any evidence at all, reported Jemaah Islamiyah was to blame for the attack, and then promptly flew back to Jakarta. Like the latest Bali bombs, the 2 bombs that exploded here were full of shrapnel, designed to kill and maim. The first one went off at 8:05 in the morning, when the market is busiest.
Jalur-jalur penjual sudah di sini, orang lewat-lewat biasa, yang semua masyarakat yang mau beli-beli di sana, di sini sudah.
This woman is one of thousands of Christian refugees who found sanctuary in Tentena during sectarian violence that cost hundreds of lives in recent years.
Masih rasa trauma ada, karena belum lama itu orang lalu diusir dari kampung, sampai di sini ternyata tidak aman juga.
A second bomb blew 10 minutes later, around 200 meters away, on the other side of the market. Reverend Rinaldi Damanik says it was placed and timed to cause maximum casualties.
Besi-besi itu, besi yang dalam bom itu sampai di gereja sana. Ya, Pak, ini ada apa sebenarnya? Ya, mereka menunjukkan kehebatan mereka bahwa mereka bisa melakukan ini di depan hidungnya polisi. Itu kantor polisi. Yo bayangkan ya kejadian ini di depan kantor polisi.
Reverend Damanik is a powerful figure in this Christian stronghold. For years he defended his community as Islamic fighters swarmed in to wage jihad. I first met him at Christmas in 2001 after villages all around Tentena were razed. He was convinced the army was behind the violence and had even left a calling card.
Iya, ini kotak amunisi yang kami temukan pada waktu terjadi penyerangan di desa Sepe. Dan jelas di sini bahwa kotak ini punya label Departemen Pertahanan Keamanan Republik Indonesia. Ada 1.400 butir amunisi kaliber 5,56 mm. Itu berarti senjata sejenis M16.
George Adichandra says that in every Indonesian hotspot, the army foments trouble by funding and arming both sides. In the case of Central Sulawesi, both Muslim and Christian militia.
So the money do not have to come from rich people like Osama bin Laden, and the weapons doesn't have to come from southern Philippines or from other exotic places, but it's actually coming from the official sources. And that is why I'm saying that the kind of terrorism which we see in Indonesia is homegrown terrorism. It's a kind of dual function or maybe a triple function of the armed forces.
The late Reverend Agustina Lumentut told me in 2001 that the Indonesian military was using proxy armies to do their dirty work.
It is for sure that the army is behind the jihad or in front of jihad. Yeah. No other interpretation.
It was proved beyond all doubt that one of the extremist groups, the Laskar Jihad, was supplied, transported and incited by the central government to go on its murderous spree.
Who dare among them to say, stop doing that? Because they have reason for doing that. They are registered officially by the government, central government.
Indonesia's President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono is applauded in Australia as a moderate Muslim leading the fight against terror in Indonesia. But as the influential coordinating minister for politics and security, he chose not to stop the Laskar Jihad and was even supporting them.
They also play roles in defending truth and justice that is expected by Muslims in Indonesia. For me, as far as what they are doing is legal and are not violating law, then this is okay.
This was a ridiculous statement. Yudhoyono was well aware of the carnage that was underway. Since 2001, things had improved somewhat, as Reverend Damanik tells these politicians from Jakarta visiting after the May 28th bombs. But local leaders are afraid that terrorism is being used to derail reconciliation between Muslims and Christians.
Dan sekarang memang luka itu sangat dalam, tetapi itu bisa ditahan sedemikian rupa. Tapi pertanyaannya adalah, ada apa di negara ini? Kalau masyarakat tidak bisa bekerja dengan baik lagi, kerjanya hanya berjaga-jaga. Apa yang kami harus kerjakan kalau cuma berjaga-jaga terus? Bagaimana negara kita ini sebenarnya? Ini pertanyaan yang kami pikir kami paham, itu juga sulit dijawab di sini.
With weapons handed in and a peace deal holding up well, Reverend Damanik's former sworn enemy is also very suspicious about the timing of the bomb in May. Muslim leader Adnan Arsan wonders whether the attack was designed to prevent the army from leaving.
Setiap keamanan mengakhiri masa tugasnya, ya, dan ada yang berbicara kami sudah mau pulang. Ya mudah-mudahanlah tidak ribut lagi. Di saat mereka mau ditarik, ada lagi yang meledak, penembakan misterius. Tidak tahu